Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for ya. What's going on, beautiful people? I hope you are doing well. Today is November 17th, 2025, and it is Monday. Monday, yet again. I cannot believe November is more than halfway over at this point. But anyway, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope your week is off to a powerful start. And if you are anywhere, particularly in the Northeast, that you are warm and cozy. All right, so I had a quick little preview. I didn't really shuffle too extensively, and I was definitely paying attention, but the takeaway is kind of interesting. It's fascinating, but we'll definitely see what the cards speak to. This is where we landed after the cut. This was what was on the bottom. And the overall summary is that the speak now or forever hold your peace moment before a matrimony has come and gone. And I guess this may be someone bringing their cup of love, which isn't even enough if you bringing it to a sacred union or to a matrimony. Not really in the grand scheme of things, not for the energies that I saw coming out. But that's where I kind of landed to summarize the preview. So some of the interesting things that I saw come up were that there was a royal wedding, a royal union, or royal nuptials. And this could all be symbolic, of course, but there was some type of royal union that took place. And the way it was coming up, it was almost as if it was, and it's like someone eloped. And okay, I'm trying to figure out how to say this because there were aspects of it that were coming up practical, but it didn't feel practical. It felt like otherworldly, honestly, or like multi-dimensional. So I'll just go out on a limb and say that it's as if in some other dimension or timeline, two very prominent people, because it was all court cards, came together. And whereas you would typically see like I just got a flash of something too. I'll share that as well. Because I've been getting called to my Game of Thrones cards, but I've been kind of shying away to keep it simple with tarot because Game of Thrones is so involved for me. It's like all consuming. But it was, typically for a royal wedding, it brings the whole kingdom out, people from all over different lands and different countries or wherever usually come to celebrate such a grand affair. But it was as if some type of ceremony took place in secret, like in some remote place. Again, it could be far out as like another dimension or a timeline that's converging into this timeline. But this is why the energy that set out to object somehow was late to do so. Like their objection didn't reach in time, or they didn't make it in time. I even saw where it's like somebody thought they had the right location of the ceremony or of the happening, however it took place, and they showed up at the wrong place or at the wrong time, maybe in the wrong dimension or the wrong timeline. I don't know like how this really works itself out. That's why I was like, it's fascinating, but I'm not really sure exactly how to convey this exactly. But anyway, there were no objections. It carried on as it was supposed to. But again, it was something that it was like very intimate, perhaps private, perhaps very secret, maybe just the two people and a witness, like something like that. Like it, so interesting. But whatever it is, it's a very dynamic union, highly ordained. Definitely saw the Four of Wands. I saw the Two of Cups. I saw the Ace of Cups. I saw the Ace of Wands. I saw the Sun. Like so many amazing cards that to me depict something prosperous underway or already, you know, in holy matrimony. And yeah, so when it came to the part of the ceremony where, you know, the question is posed, like, if anybody has any reason why these two shouldn't be wed or shouldn't be brought together in holy matrimony, speak now, forever hold your peace. It was silence, because the person that would have objected, or the energy or entity that would have objected, didn't make it. They weren't there. So now the union has commenced, and it's like the beginning of, oh, what did I hear? It was like, in one aspect, the light of it was the dawn of a new era, and then the dark aspect was the reign of terror, was a new reign of terror. So I guess it just depends on how you perceive this matrimony as to what it means to you or how it affects you. But it was like one and the same, those two concepts. And so what I saw just in a flash right now, if you only get this if you're familiar with Game of Thrones, so pardon the exclusion if not. But what I saw in a flash was the ceremony between, I think his name was Rhaegar, and dang, what was what the heck, what was their dad's name? Starts with an N. It's been so long since I watched the series. Every now and again I gotta watch it again just to refresh my memory. Hold on. Game of Thrones secret marriage. Okay, let's see. Rhaegar and Lyanna, which was Ned. Ned is his name. Ned, who was one of the main characters who, you know, died pretty early in the series, but his sister, who you only really see in flashbacks. So it's almost as if there was an existence of this era in the show from another time, a space and time and dimension that you never were. You were only engaged in flashbacks. So yeah, so there's that energy of something from the past, maybe even ancient in some way, shape, or form, that, you know, has been trying to reconnect, reconvene, reunite in a safe space, but has always met some type of opposition. In the case of Rhaegar and Lyanna, their families, the Starks and at that time, hold on, what was it? So Lyanna she was married to Ned's best friend, who ended up taking the crown by siege from the Mad King, Robert, who ultimately ended up marrying Cersei. He was really in love with Lyanna, but he wasn't no good. He was a mess. He was a hot mess. He was a hot mess to Cersei, and he probably would have been a hot mess to Lyanna too, but it was like a love lost type of thing. And throughout the entire series, you really didn't know until damn near, I think it was the last season, maybe season before last, that the story of how she may have been abducted by Rhaegar and taken against her will, and then held captive in this castle, and, you know, like basically abused more or less, was false. Like, they were actually married in a secret ceremony that was only recorded by one of the Meisters, who were like the priests or the wise men of that time, in some secret book that nobody really had much access to except for other Meisters. And it wasn't the type of information that people scrolled through, no pun intended, often, because it was just kind of like the record keeping of history, you know. And it wasn't until another figure came, and his grunt work was to pretty much like file all of these documents and all of these timelines and things like that. He kind of became a timekeeper in a sense, and stumbled across this information that completely reset history in a sense. Like how can I say it? Like it corrected history. Here it is. It corrected history and it reestablished a new dynasty, because once it was discovered that Lyanna and Rhaegar were actually wed, she was divorced from whomever it was, or whoever she was supposed to be connected to. Actually, I'm not sure if she was actually married to Robert or if he was just in love with her, but for whatever reason there was some severance of let's say a false union, or a union that wasn't destined. And this union between Rhaegar and Lyanna, what it did was it united two very strong and powerful bloodlines in a way that was kept secret for a long time by default, but at the perfect time, may even call it divine time, the secret reemerged at the time when the kingdom was at its most vulnerable, like when it was really at the point where it really needed to have a solid leadership, and to have the truth finally be solidified about its history, its past, its present, and ultimately its future. Now, ultimately, the child that they had together in secret, which Ned raised as his bastard, Jon Snow, the pivotal character. I'm sure even if you haven't watched it, you know that name. He was supposed to be destined to inherit the crown, inherit the Iron Throne and the Seven Kingdoms, but he didn't want it. But at least the history had been corrected from what was just completely a falsehood. And it caused for a readjustment of who, which I still disagree with how it played out, with Bran ending up being the heir to the throne. I mean, it was fine for entertainment purposes, but in a more perfect world, Daenerys and Jon Snow would have reunited, even though it was a bit of a scandal because they technically were like relatives. But back then, who cared? It didn't matter back then. They was marrying cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever. And they were distantly related. But in a perfect ending for me, the two of them would have come together and ruled together. But they wrote her to pretty much lose her mind to her pride and ego. And then Jon, ultimately took her life, which more or less almost made him a prisoner of the kingdom. So even though he really didn't want the throne anyway, it kind of put him out of order to inherit it, against the elders' better judgment. So anyway, all that to say is there's something here with that, because I didn't have that flash for nothing. And I don't even know if we'll continue on with that. I don't know how that gets to continue on in the cards, but if you know Game of Thrones and you're familiar, I'm sure you can connect the dots as to what I'm talking about. But basically, to sum it up, it's like a forbidden union has finally come back around full circle, like maybe where it has been forbidden, maybe even bloodlines or two forces that were disconnected or separated by circumstance, or maybe by intrusion or unlawful influence at a point in time, finally found their way back together, to a place of holy matrimony, or to a place of a solid covenant or commitment that can reestablish order in the way that corrects what was, what was done wrong in the past, and also like a new foundation or a reset for what gets to be established for the future from this point. So I don't know. And then I saw it like, side note, I saw it like a like one of those dating shows, you know, like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or things like that, where at the end people keep getting eliminated. Well, at the end of each episode, people get eliminated, and then finally it narrows down to the one choice that the person makes to, you know, Love is Blind type energy, or, you know, like those type of shows. I saw some aspect of that as well, which was also interesting. So that could have been part of the holdup, is that one or both of the two sides, let's say, at least, you know, but for example purposes, two sides was kind of caught in their, you know, their own dating series in some way, shape, or form, like going through different options, or perhaps even different karmic experiences, learning themselves, figuring out what they wanted, how they can grow reflectively in light of these different connections and relationships, until finally that phased itself out, and someone or both, it would have to be, you know, ultimately that both energies would have first had to choose themselves and what's best for themselves, and then finally give themselves permission to choose what they feel or who they feel is best for them, regardless of the interference, the influences on either side, the interruptions, the objections. All of that is kind of like has been backburned for the sake of objectivity, you know, with these two energies making up their minds themselves, and, you know, being devoted to that decision. So let's see what else. Oh, I know that's the Ten of Swords. Put something to an end. Put something to an end. Like it could feel like a betrayal to the options, or again to those energies that would want to object, you know, that don't agree or had other ideas in mind. They may feel betrayed or duped, or I don't know, like left out or something. I definitely saw the Three of Swords a lot too. There, I felt like this heartbreak energy as well. Yeah. What's with this Ten of Swords? Oh, the Moon. And that slid out so gracefully too. By what they didn't know. They had blind spots. So maybe this revelation of history unfolding, it's either, okay, so I'm sensing like it's either what was being withheld or concealed that was a betrayal and that has ultimately come to an end, or it's what others didn't know that was happening behind the veil, or again in some distant place or somewhere, like where they thought they had their eyes on the ball, pretty much, like their eyes were peeled on all, they had the perfect intel, you know, of the big picture, and thought, you know, that they more or less like had their finger on the pulse of what was to happen next, or what did happen before, or whatever, you know, everything in between, you know. But it's like maybe they were betrayed by their blind spots, probably from a source perspective, because there were some things that just weren't meant for certain eyes, or there was some information, or some enlightenment that wasn't assigned to everyone, you know, like there was something secret, you know. I definitely saw the High Priestess, and then I think it was the High Priestess and the Four of Wands, or the High Priestess and the Two of Cups. So there's like again, that was the secret union that was underway whole time. It was never not happening, but it's just like almost as if like source had to keep moving the ceremony. Like every time it would be found out about here, and it was like, all right, well, we can't do it there, or if we do it there, it's going to get interrupted. And maybe that's also what kept happening. It's like once there was like somebody dropped the dime on where it's supposed to happen in this lifetime, then they showed up there and just derailed the whole plan. And then, you know, it was supposed to happen in this lifetime, or meaning others, whatever, not particularly this one, but in this dimension or wherever, in this capacity, this season even. It could even be that practical, but I'm telling you, I feel something more far out than it just be. It could be both, but I definitely feel something expansive where it's like, okay, it was supposed to happen here and at this time, but the things weren't in alignment. There were oppositions, maybe even transits that were in oppositions, you know, besides the human entities or spiritual entities. There could have been celestial entities that were not all in agreement or whatever. Or at least were imposing their objection in a way that made an impact, even if it wasn't really admissible, you know, in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, there's whatever it was, like the obscurity did not prevail. Well, I should say it did prevail in this season because for whatever reason something was hidden or undercover or done in some remote place where nobody would know to look, or at a time when nobody would think, you know, it's almost like sending out false invitations for this ceremony, but it really is happening. And you got all your guests going over there, but really you elope and go to Vegas, you know what I mean? And nobody's there. It's like that type of energy. Which is probably why it was too late once the cat was out the bag for that objector to pick up and move, you know, to mobilize to the right location, because they had put all of their energy, they invested all their energy toward one place. And it was almost like a decoy, you know, like, oh, this is so interesting. I don't know. Damn, and here's the Page of Cups. We went from the Knight of Cups now down to the Page. Interesting. But like I said, they wasn't about nothing anyway. And maybe this is the energy behind the veil of it all, like under the surface, that instead of it being an energy like the Knight of Cups, who at least has something that they wish to offer, even if it may or may not be, it might not be holistic, you know, or it might even be with some ulterior motive or some type of agenda. At least there's something to offer to exchange. But this energy with the Page of Cups is more dependent than it is even codependent. It needs to be filled. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be loved. And there will be an expectation for it to be loved immeasurably more than it's willing to love. Let's see. What's with the Page of Cups? Something here about some type of offering to the moon. Maybe the offering or the sacrifice. The sacrifice. Because I heard like somebody got sunned, which is a funny play on the energy of the moon here, but it's like the moon played a trick on somebody. So, or somebody, again, betrayed themselves by thinking that they had something in the bag that they just really didn't. They were blinded by their own ambitions, perhaps. And it's like the moon appeared to be in favor with the petition of whatever this Page of Cups energy is, maybe even of the Knight of Cups, which is probably why the Knight of Cups still looks like it's coming up confidently still, you know, with that offer. It's like somebody thought that they had the moon, like the frequency of the moon in their favor, in their back pocket, on their payroll, so to speak, by way of whatever offerings they were making. So it could be somebody doing love spells on certain strong lunations or transits, and thinking that it was so powerful that it would have to yield good results, you know. But with the moon card in this moment, I'm seeing even more so the sun than I'm even seeing the moon. Like if you see the rays behind the moon's face, it looks more like the sun in this case, or it's two-faced. And like I said, like it appeared that the moon could be, I just heard corrupted, or let's say at least persuaded to in someone's favor, maybe even manipulated in someone's favor. But really the moon is submissive to the sun in a great deal. Certainly co-creative with it, regardless of the appearance of darkness, you know, its appearance in darkness, it still is light. And somebody miscalculated the influence that they had on that energy and the influence they were garnering from it. You know, they didn't have the favor. So it's almost like they were being given false information about where to go, what to do, what will yield results. maybe even by a person or people that claim to have moon power or dark essence in some productive way. It just wasn't so. And yeah, and that definitely gives way to the Page of Cups being dependent, because it might have been dependent on somebody else's power or energy to manifest in their favor. I did see the Magician card in my pre-shuffle. But ultimately that cup is tainted in this case. With the Hermit. Yeah, man. I feel like they got led astray by some type of false teaching or false understanding, false intel, which I've already said. But the Hermit, even upright, maybe they were led astray, because it is upright, but the direction that it's headed is toward this moon energy and then the Ten of Swords. So it's like somebody's intel, again, led them to a betrayal, or led them to their own demise, or to a dead end at the very best case scenario. Yeah. Like somebody was dependent on someone else's word or guidance or spiritual teaching, or again, intel or visions. What do you call it? Like analytics, like somebody's spiritual analytics about maybe even the past, you know, the circumstances, again, like studying scrolls that were incorrect, or reading signs that were intentionally misleading. So maybe that's why it's upright, because it's like what they were seeing at face value, you know, which ultimately was an illusion, was real to the senses. It's like it was reliable by way of your human senses or your surface senses, but the depth of the truth was kind of hidden or obscured and buried behind that false light. I don't even know what I'm talking about here. This is really interesting. Wow, here's the Nine of Pentacles, the single lady herself. Once again, all the energy is headed that way. The single lady is over here, you know, in her own little world. Once again, in her own little dimension, almost tucked away, secure, like a lady in waiting is what I'm hearing. Wow, on the Judgment card. That feels extremely confirming to me as well. Yeah, like just lady in waiting, because the decision was already made. It was already written, you know, what the outcome should be. And it was like as if, you know, the way was being cleared. Again, as I'm saying, there was a waiting for the proper timing, you know, or the ideal alignment, or to clear the opposition, to evade the intrusions, to wait for the right celestial alignments, like whatever it was that needed to be perfectly in order, you know, like where everything is just especially perfect, you know, for the matter at hand, whatever this is. And again, it's almost like resurrecting something from the past, like something that needed to be rectified from its failure to launch, or its failure to live, you know, like something got cut short, or had a shorter lifespan, or wasn't able to live out its full potential in seasons past because the timing just wasn't there, you know. And like I said, this could be as practical literally as coming together with someone or something now that just wasn't right 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you know. It could literally be that as well. That, you know, something that had been split apart or ripped away from you in a very, perhaps even in a violent or a devastating way, now has the time to come back online in a way that is fail-proof, you know, like it's protected, it's covered. It's not, it's, you know, like meeting the right person at the wrong time, you know, like most people have had that experience. And sometimes you get to go, you know, spin the block and do over. Sometimes you don't, you know, sometimes it's just an experience or a memory that you get to hold in your heart of what could have been, you know, not in a regretful or mournful way, but just to be thankful that you had the engagement at all, to meet someone or to encounter someone that impacted your existence in the way that they did. And then sometimes you come back around, you meet, once you've both experienced life a little bit more, maybe had a marriage, maybe had some kids, maybe moved away, maybe went to school, maybe just grew up, evolved, and it seems like everything is perfect. You know, it's the novelty of what it felt like when you first met, but even better, you know. So something like that here, it could be that could resonate for a great deal of people. We are in Mercury retrograde, so just definitely be mindful if it's a matter of reuniting. and considering second chances, maybe even third chances, do so with discernment. But something is definitely reminiscent here. It doesn't feel it, even if it's new in this lifetime or in this dimension, perhaps to you, it's something that has a very familiar essence, like you've done this before, you've met this person before, you've encountered this person maybe in another body or something. Like something interesting is here. Or you may even be encountering someone currently and wondering why it feels so pure and so comfortable, and that could even sometimes evoke a little bit of fear, like, hold on, it's just too good to be true. That happens as well. So you definitely got to be discerning and keen to your inner guidance to know, like, what your senses are really telling you. And most times, if you're clear enough, you'll know if it's just a romanticized version of the real thing, to come, or if it actually is the real deal. It most likely will reveal itself one way or another, especially if you give it a little time to do so. But definitely here it's like judgment on being single and in solitude, maybe even being isolated. Like there's something coming to a strong end regarding that with 1010 here. Look, and here this guy come. He came out just like that on the edge of the table, almost knocked him off. Yeah. Like I said, too late. The decision has already been made, and here he is, like, just a day late and $1 short. Maybe a lifetime late. and a freaking decade. I mean, a millennial too short. Let me see. What's with the a millennium, I think is the word. Yeah, damn. Look at that. Too late. Forever hold your peace. If you can find it, because that's not really the energy of peace here with the, it's like somebody, this could be the loss, which I did see the Four of Cups. This could be the loss of a lifetime for someone. Like they will never have this opportunity or encounter this level of love ever again, or level of happiness ever again. Like it just doesn't exist outside of it. There may be a strong resemblance, but it'll never hit quite the same, is what I'm feeling here. And that's the sheer thought of that is what's devastating for some, and the reality is mortifying, because it's like someone really just having to face either the fact that they missed their opportunity, they missed their moment, or that it just was never them in the first place, like they were just never the one, and it was a mismatch, and they, like, pretty much waste their time and energy objecting to something that wasn't even for them, when like you could have spent your time and energy actually in pursuit of the thing that was for you, you know, finding that perfect fit, so to speak, or that ideal fit. And now somebody spent their time interfering, interjecting, intruding in something that really was none of their business. And they've wasted time to catch up with their own destiny. It's like they're behind on what's meant for them. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Look at this. These two came out together. The Queen of Cups. Yeah, because this, I mean, this is sad. It's like love don't live here. You know, where it was always a reliable source. You know, it's like classic case of, I often bring this up, right, about Dwayne and Whitley from A Different World. It's like Dwayne showing up. Well, first of all, in this case, this person didn't even make it to the right ceremony, but let's just say they did. It's like Dwayne showing up to the ceremony, causing all this interruption and confusion, only for Whitley to be like, no, I'm still going to marry Byron. Which she probably should have done anyway. I mean, obviously, it's a fan favorite for her. It's a fan favorite that she didn't, you know, that she did marry Dwayne. But in essence, he had even the night before to profess his love and to try to stop the situation before her big day. And it's like, yeah, it's cold here. It's not, and maybe even it's not cold for everyone, because the Queen of Cups is still the Queen of Cups, but it's an exclusive kind of love. It's a love on reserve for something or someone special, even if it's just for herself. You know, it's not a source to just tap into or pull up on as you please anymore. It's not that open anymore, and not that available anymore. It's like this is the energy that is like, this is the boundary, the border of someone's heart space, where you want to pull up and take a sip, take a drink, you know, siphon a little, take it for later, take it elsewhere, whatever the intention may be. It's like there's a gate, you know, there's a block, there's a boundary, there's a security system. And it appears, here it is again with this illusion, this facade, because I know this card has a traditional meaning, but I feel like this is the front, you know, like that secure, how would I call that? Like that security, like that secure perimeter around the Queen of Cups heart, where it appears that she's cold and detached and maybe, you know, maybe even incapable of love or unwilling to love, or maybe even in an isolated place, you know, like to consider the Queen of Cups somewhere on some isolated island where she can't be found, or she can't be, there's no way to get to her love, to connect to it. That again, there's something about there being some type of decoy or some illusion, some facade that was quite convincing to whomever it was supposed to convince, maybe even to mislead, you know, or trick altogether, detour perhaps. But the true nature is still the Queen of Cups, fully intact, fully in her love space, fully highly emotionally intelligent, just very clear about who gets to be welcomed into that intimate space and who doesn't. this is what you get met with when the decision is that you don't deserve to have access. And it's a very cold and desolate place to be. It's a cold place to encounter compared to the warmth and the fluidity of the Queen of Cups. Utter devastation, especially again for the Knight of Cups, who has an anticipation to fill his cup. Although he may be presenting himself to have something to offer, he's definitely looking to be filled. And ain't no cups in this picture with the Eight of Swords. It's like I said, like love don't live there. What's love got to do with it type of energy. Like when Ike came to see Tina and first thought he was going to sweet talk her and gaslight her back into his clutches. And when she wasn't biting on that, then he tried to threaten her and, try to, scare her intimidate her into getting back with him. And then it was just kind of what do they call it? When you're like stone cold to like a narcissist. What's that? It's like gray something. Oh man, now I gotta know. Yeah. When you have like no emotions and you're not like aroused by you're not easily provoked. Let's see. Gray rock. Yeah, gray rocking. Make yourself appear as uninteresting, unresponsive, like a boring gray rock that no one notices, so the narcissist loses interest and stops seeking an emotional reaction or supply from you. Damn. Well, that just summed that up. No wonder it's like they like I said, they were never ordained to have access. It was always an intrusion if that's what they were on, and then if that was their intention, even to come, to spin the block. But somebody was so heavy on the scent every time, every lifetime, every dimension, every season, every era that of their waking existence, that the divine had to get clever, I suppose. Had to get clever, set up the decoy so that the real king and queen could take their rightful positions. Wow, look at this. I just saw that the Eight of Wands, some gifts definitely coming in. Quickly, like some type of advancement that again is for everyone that is affected to prosper. Again, with that energy between it being a new reign of terror or the dawn of a new era, whatever that means. This is coming in hot. That's for sure. It's coming in hot. And it can, I can imagine it's a gift or a curse depending on who you ask. Oh, Five of Pentacles, yeah. Depending on who you ask, it's either a gift or a curse. Damn, that's crazy. Because some people are going to be welcome into covenant, will welcome into the kingdom of this covenant. I don't know. And some are going to be shut out, are going to be, what do you call it? Banished, or what is it when you're like, not expelled? There's another word. Let me see. I can't think of anything today. Thrown out of a window. Let's see. Oh yeah, exile. Exile, that's what I was trying to. Banished is one, but exile, that's what I was hearing. Exile. Oh man. And that'll be a really sad place to be. For sure. Because I saw the Three of Cups. It's going to be a whole lot of cause for celebration and merriment inside of the kingdom walls, and within that kingdom territory or space. Of course, not necessarily physically, even if this is emotionally, energetically, whatever the case may be. It'll be a prosperous time for those that find themselves in the inner sanctum of whatever this is that I'm talking about. But for those that feel outcasted, exiled, banished, left out, if there is any opportunity to be welcomed in, it'll definitely be a challenging journey to do so, or process to be so. So I don't know. This was interesting. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if everybody's going to relate to this one. I feel like there is a point of relatability in a more practical sense that I really just wasn't harping on today, because it just didn't feel like that. It feels like something grand. Even grander than what I articulated, honestly speaking. And interesting. Okay, the moon. Okay, we got a couple majors. All right, but not many, just the moon, the hermit, and the judgment, So it's definitely a powerful happening, but it may even be quite disguised in the mundane. That's what I'm hearing. Again, as yet another way to kind of like throw the opposition off the scent, or was, disguised or camouflaged in the mundane. And maybe perhaps is in this with this judgment card getting ready to be officially like announced or introduced or something like that. I don't know. All right. So anyway, thank you thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I'm sure I'll talk to you again at some point. But until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.